Hello, welcome to this next flip preaching video. We're continuing our series looking at the book of Colossians, and this week we are looking at the chunk between 1:24, so chapter 1 verse 24 through to 2:15. Okay, now we get, again, please have a look at the whole thing, read the whole thing through, but I want particularly to focus on a few verses towards the end of this section because they're so good. Really, really interesting. Again, the book of Colossians, we said this last week, it gives us a really unique theology, a really unique picture of what God is like, and particularly what Jesus is like, and what it means to be a Christian, a follower, who's been baptised and raised again to be like Christ. And at the end of this chunk, so I'm talking about verses 13, 14, 15 in chapter 2. It gives us some really, really fascinating metaphors, pictures of understanding what God did on the cross, why the crucifixion was important, what happened in the resurrection. Because it is a mystery, and we have here three ways of describing it, and they're quite unusual. They're quite different to what we might normally have, what we would normally hear, what we normally get expressed in sort of hymns and songs, the way that we tend to think the crucifixion works. So they're a really interesting view of what happened in that event. Okay, firstly, in verse 13 it says that He made you alive. So God brought us to life. Again, when people are baptised, there's a big baptism feel running through this whole letter. When you're baptised, you go into the water, which symbolises death, but you come out of it, which symbolises being made alive. So the resurrection made us alive, gave us a new life. The second way that it's described is one that's a bit tricky to understand. He said that the handwriting is a literal translation of it. He took the handwriting about us. The technical Greek word was a chirograph. He took the handwriting and he nailed it to the cross. Now, we don't really know what the writing was. Maybe it was a record of the things that we've done wrong. Maybe individually, maybe as humanity. A record of our mistakes, the things that we've got wrong. Somehow has been written down, and that record, rather than being used as evidence against us, rather than that being used as a record of what we've done wrong, that was nailed to the cross. Now, in those days, when people were crucified, they would have a little label nailed to the cross saying what their crime was. So that fits that idea that when Jesus was crucified, it was as if all the things that we've done wrong were nailed to the cross as a little label, and Jesus took that and it's gone. Awesome, awesome. The things that we do wrong are nailed to the cross, like a little label that's put there. And the third way that the event of the crucifixion is described is fascinating. He says He's disarmed the rulers and authorities, meaning there's the spiritual powers which are often mentioned throughout the Gospels and in the letters. The power of evil in the world, often described as an authority, has been disarmed, has been beaten in victory, and they've been paraded in public, making a show of them. Now, in those days, the Roman Empire, when the Roman army conquered a different a different local tribe or a different country or wherever, they would take the ruler and they would parade them through the streets so that the people could see that they'd lost their power, that there was a change. And Jesus did that. He took the spiritual powers, the authorities, disarmed them, defeated them, and paraded them in public. So there is no power of death, there is no power of sin or shame. It's been beaten and paraded in public. It has no power anymore. How good. How good is that? And that's the good news, that there is no, our sins have been forgiven. We're no longer bound by death, because the powers of death have been defeated. Jesus is the victor, and we're made alive. So good, so good. Okay, so that's a little highlight from the second chunk from Colossians. Join me next week and we'll look at the next bit. Okay, thank you, bye-bye.